Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the opportunity to catch up with Rhonda Wight. She is the president at Refrigeration Sales Corporation based in Ohio. She's been around the industry a long time, almost as long as I have. But it was really fascinating kind of seeing her journey. She and I ran across one another when she was involved as a mentor to this emerging leaders conference that I was working with this last summer. And I really liked the whole theme of people giving back. This is something that I've just really enjoyed. When some of the folks that I've interviewed and met with over the years enjoy giving back to the industry that has given them so much. And so she was mentoring a group on communications and leadership. And she's been doing this mentoring for a long time. And as you'll hear in the interview, she herself, thought that she was going to just take this as a part-time job during school. And then distribution got its hooks in her and she never made it back out. But we had a great conversation. A lot of it was really looking towards the future and really what 2025 and beyond will look for their organization. Talked a lot about budgeting. And I know that typically isn't the most exciting subject to cover, but I think people do it so poorly that I was really intrigued by the level of detail that these folks get into and kind of how it serves their organization going forward. I hope you enjoy this interview, and I look forward to the next time we speak. This episode is brought to you by my friends at Moblico. Since 2010, Moblico's mission has been to help wholesale distributors, manufacturers, and contractors improve customer service, expedite orders, engage, and expand their customer base. They've helped hundreds of companies who have fallen behind executing their mobile digital plans bridge the technology gap. Beyond two-way communication messaging, Moblico offers one-to-many targeted broadcast solutions. Imagine communicating new product offerings, special events, or even service disruptions instantly to the right customer segment. If you've been curious about how mobile technology can help your company or are looking to upgrade your current solution, check out what Moblico has to offer at www.moblicosolutions.com. That's MOBLICO solutions.com. And be sure to let them know you heard about them on the Distribution Talk podcast. Well, hey, Rhonda, welcome to Distribution Talk. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, Jason. Yeah, very glad to be here.
Well, terrific. So if you wouldn't mind, give us a little background on your career. I mean, you've been doing this a long time. So if you wouldn't mind, just how did you get involved and, what drew you to distribution?
Sure. So I got involved on accident and, I had just finished college. I was looking for a part-time job while I was going back to school to get my master's and answered a part-time ad at Refrigeration Sales Corporation. Had no idea what the company was, had no idea what they did, and just got the job, started working part-time, and literally fell in love with the industry. I found a place that I really enjoyed working. I really liked the people that, I was working with. And it was interesting. I continued going to school and I kept saying I was leaving when I finished my degree. And at that time, the owner of the company kept saying, no, we're not going to let you leave. We're going to find something for you to do here. Right. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. But sure enough, that is indeed what happened.
It's funny how sometimes the owners of these businesses can be very persuasive and start making it really, really, well, okay, we'll keep a job for you until you find something else.
Right, right.
Yeah. And then they know that they're going to, get their claws into you and they're not going to make it out.
That's right.
I'll tell you, Rhonda, I have seen this so many times with folks I've interviewed, but then friends in the industry that literally they intended this was going to be the part-time gig during college.
Yeah.
This is going to be the short-term gig and to kind of get me through school. And then, oh, no, I'm going to find my real career later. And then lo and behold, guess what? 25, 30 years later, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I guess I'm still here.
It sneaks up on you. That's for sure.
It definitely does. So if you wouldn't mind, just tell me, I guess, if you can recall back, why did it sneak up? I mean, what was interesting about this particular space, the HVACR space?
Well, so most interesting. So I've been with RSC now 31 years. and I've had
Mm-hmm.
varying degrees of responsibilities, different roles in the company. The first project I took on that I think was really interesting was an ERP conversion.
Oh.
So we were converting from J&M
Mm-hmm.
to an Infor product. It wasn't Infor at the time, but it's Infor today.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was fun. Like I got to teach, I got to train, I got to
Sure.
be a member of the implementation team. And at that time, my role was purchasing. I was a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to teach the order entry modules and I got to teach the purchase order modules. So I really feel like I got a great look inside of various positions in the company. And I had a great time. It was fun to teach that. And it was fun to be sort of the
Sure.
expert on the software. And there were a few of us. So it wasn't just me.
Mm-hmm.
It was the people, quite frankly, being in that role and getting to touch all of the different of my coworkers at RSC. And then
Mm-hmm.
also
Mm-hmm.
having been in purchasing, a lot of the suppliers that I worked with were just really great people. And
Yeah.
then as I got to know our customers, it was really the relationship business piece of our industry is what really I think I was enamored by the most.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been very rewarding to get to know so many people in the industry and build friendships. And I had lots of really great people mentoring me along the way that had been in the industry a long time. So
Rhonda, it's funny. I think you're probably the only person I have met that fell in love with implementation of some sort, of an implemented software. I mean, this is, usually this is, the sleepless night type of endeavor, but really I do understand and can respect, that, yeah, you got a chance to see everybody and check everything out.
yeah,
And there is something to be said for being that champion of a implementation in that software. You are the go-to person at that point, and
right.
everybody. Now that can be a blessing and a curse at the same time, but it sounds like it was a blessing for you.
Yeah, it really was. I loved it.
So fast forward now, several years later, 31 years later, as you say, your focus right now. I mean, we went through some pretty rough times in the last 3-4 years. I mean, yes, they were high
Sure.
revenue times, but they were very unstable, very tumultuous times here. What is 25 going to be looking like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, our biggest focus currently is obviously the A2L transition. Getting beyond the A2L transition is going to be really, really important. We're spending a lot of time now just hopefully setting ourselves up for success.
Mm-hmm.
There's this, making sure we get all of the R410A product that we need that can cover
Mm-hmm.
our customer needs through getting
Mm-hmm.
the 454B product. So that
Mm-hmm.
certainly is something that we're spending a lot of time on, lots of conversations around. And then really for next year, our goal is to get back to the basics, get these regulatory changes behind us and really get back to serving our customers. That's what we're good at. That's what we really enjoy doing. And
Mm-hmm.
not that we haven't been serving our customers, but we've really been firefighters the last few years. And
Yeah.
between COVID and some of the supply chain challenges and then the barrage of price increases we've had to implement. And
Sure.
I mean, the challenges have been endless to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
And then add in the regulatory changes. We've all, I guess, had to learn a different way to do business in the last few years. And now that that's sort of normalizing, and I
Mm-hmm.
laugh when people say, will we ever get back to normal again? I think this
I think you're there.
I think this
Yeah.
is it. This is our
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
I really believe
Right.
that. What we have to
Sure.
do is learn how to be who we are at our
Yeah.
best in this new climate that we all operate in. And I think that's going to serve us all well, and that will serve our customers well if we can get back to focusing more on them than a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
other things that have taken a lot of our time.
So for those, listeners who are not in the HVAC space, could you explain the regulatory change, the A2L conversion in a brief way, what that's really doing to you all and the contractor and pretty much everyone in that supply chain?
Sure, sure. So the A2L transition, basically what's happened is the government has regulated that we have to change refrigerants that are in our condensing units and heat pumps. So the refrigerant that we're using is now going to be mildly flammable going forward. And so that in and of itself requires, a lot of dissipation controls and just things that we need to make sure that we've got the right limit switches in the systems so that
Mm-hmm.
everyone is kept safe. And this mildly flammable refrigerant is really, I think, less of an issue from homeowners and installing contractors. The real issue that we're all dealing with right now is that the manufacturers can no longer manufacture products with the R410A refrigerant. At least my manufacturer that we serve is going
Mm-hmm.
to R454B. And so that new refrigerant causes, they've got to shut down the lines, turn the lines over to the new products. So we have all of our last orders in of the old product. And then we are starting to place last orders for the new product. But
Mm-hmm.
the real change that's going to face us is that as of December 31st, 2025, the old products can no longer be installed.
Okay.
And as of December 31st, 2024, manufacturers can no longer manufacture the old products. So we've got a 1-year window there that we can have some overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And that in and of itself is always just very, very challenging for us to manage the inventory, the flow of inventory, making
For
sure
sure.
that we don't get stuck with too much of the old, but that we've got enough and we're ready to move into the new product when our manufacturer is ready for that product to be shipped to us.
Well, and I think you probably have to still maintain a representative inventory of repair parts for, previous generation products and things like that. So, and that's going to linger on for several years, that you're going to have this dual inventory, inventory parts, repair parts primarily to support the previous generation. And then, of course, repair parts for the brand new stuff because they're not going to get it right the first time. I mean, it's just,
That's right.
again, we've been around the block long enough that we know that is not always going to happen.
That's right. That's right. And there's also going to be a lot of premature obsolescence of products. You buy a new system today, you're going to get a 410A system. And, that system may not last as long, or maybe it could last as long. The products aren't any less quality products, but that refrigerant's going to become more and more costly to service that unit if there are issues down the road.
I'm the proud owner of one of those installed last summer. And there's a good chance it's going to be difficult for me. I may have bought myself into a problem.
Yeah, so hopefully that won't happen. But there's always a chance for that premature obsolescence, which is not, we all want those systems to last for as long as possible.
Yeah. So if we could circle back on getting back to basics, tell me a little bit about your thoughts there. What do you really mean? What do we really want to do in getting back to basics? I mean, yes, you've had some technology challenges earlier over the last 3 years and new ways of communicating, but what does that really mean for your organization?
Well, for us, we have 2 themes. We talk a lot about service speed, expertise, and relationships. Those are the things that mean the most to us. Service speed, meaning that we want to serve our customers as quickly and accurately as possible first time around, the perfect order, if you will. Their time is what's most valuable. And so we want to make sure that we can serve them quickly and accurately. Expertise is, we really pride ourselves on hiring technically capable employees. Our counter people are more technical than a lot of our competitors' counter people are. And then, of course, our tech support department, we really work hard to provide top level training for our installing contractors and service contractors and making sure that we've got that training available to them so that they're qualified to install all these new products with all these new regulatory changes that are coming. And then relationships. We say a lot here that it's not a matter of if we will make a mistake, it's when we make a mistake. The stronger that relationship is and the more that you trust us, the more, you're going to let us solve that problem and we'll try to go above and beyond. And, we never say we won't make mistakes. We try not to repeat the same mistakes. And we try to own our mistakes and really make it right for our customers if we make those mistakes. So getting back to just focusing on service speed, expertise, and relationships will be very, very welcoming in 2025.
Yeah.
And then the other theme we have is relentlessly serving our customers. And we've got this new mission that's coming out in 2025 that's just say yes, figure out how to say yes.
Yeah.
And the world has gotten a little more complicated, and
Hmm.
our customer contractor friends have, they're in the thick of it, and we want to make it easy for them to solve the problems that they have. And so we've got to figure out a way to say yes to
Hmm.
whatever it is that they need from us.
I think that's an interesting point that I think in the last several years, not just the last, COVID pandemic years, but previous to that, I think we've gotten away from that. It's been a yes, but, or it's been, I'm not sure we can do that. And I wonder if it's more of a convenience for ourselves, or maybe we don't want to go the extra mile. I'm not really sure, but I think that's a really interesting point that we have kind of lost that in many respects, and it's time to rekindle that if possible.
Yeah, we've gotten really good at saying no. We've gotten really good at excuses,
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
on purpose,
Right.
not, through any fault of anyone, particularly in our company. We just had to try to, solve as many things as we could with what we had to work with. And so hoping that we can do a better job going forward. And I think we can. I mean, even 24, the latter part of 24, with the exception of this A2L transition,
Hmm.
we really are focused on the right things, and we're hoping to see more of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, unfortunately I get myself sucked into social media and some of the negative aspects of that, and looking at people with a negative reflection of work and a negative reflection of service, and not wanting to go the extra mile, and well, I'm not getting paid to do that, so that's not my job, and seeing a lot of that, and I try not to believe everything I read in those mediums, but still I think there's been a pervasive attitude over the last,
Sure.
gosh, it's got to be 10 years, maybe 7 to 10 years at least, that you're right. There has been a negative connotation, and it's not my job, or I'm going to find a way around this, around doing what's right. Again, and of course that's subjective. I think I know what's right, but
Right.
yeah.
Right. Right. Well, and the other thing too is, we've put a lot of focus recently on internal customers and external
Oh, okay.
customers,
Yeah.
really trying to have our own peers, serving your peers with the same
Hmm.
respect that you would serve a customer. And that's been an interesting dynamic going on, because
Yeah.
I think everyone has been very taxed and frustrated, and some of the things that we've been challenged with, such as inventory concerns and changes, and
Hmm.
everyone's trying to do the right thing. And it's not always easy when we're, having these difficult conversations internally or externally.
Hmm.
So we've really been trying to put a pretty strong focus on respecting your peers and your coworkers as well.
Great. No, I think that's going to serve you incredibly well, and perhaps you can be out in front of some of your competitors out there on the shift to getting back to kind of doing the right thing, and saying yes.
Yeah, we're sure going to try.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by NSQL Distribution Software. NSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package. I say distribution-based because that's important. Many alternatives out there say they do distribution, but they really aren't very good at it. They're generally watered-down manufacturing packages with a few distribution features tacked on. I only recommend software packages that were purpose-built to serve distribution, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than NSQL Distribution Software at www.nsql.com. That's INXSQL.com. So one of the other things you and I had touched on before was budgeting. You are going into a budgeting process, and really a renewed vigor towards budgeting and understanding that. Tell me what that means in your company, because it's always been kind of a fuzzy area in many, at least in the privately held distribution companies that I know. It's been,
Sure.
kind of a funny one, budgeting, and you're kind of like, it's kind of a budget, but I'm going to spend what I want anyway.
Yeah. We do, our budgeting and our forecasting is something we're very focused on right now.
Yeah.
It's one of our highest priorities right now. And the way that we do it is literally from a budgeting perspective, we go line by line, the things that we know, the things that we're estimating, and, put that all in there. And some of those things we know and they won't change. Other things we're sort of estimating what we think they will be. But it's literally a line by line process that we go through with our CFO here. From a forecasting perspective, on
Hmm.
the sales forecast side, we do what we call a bottoms up forecast,
Hmm.
and it starts with our branch managers and our territory managers. And we send them worksheets of their assigned accounts for
Hmm.
each of the territory managers. And of course, we had a sales meeting and we talked about what kind of growth we're looking at for next year, what we think we can accomplish. And then really the goal for the TM is to go through account by account. And, if they know this person's investing and has added some team and they're going to try to grow their business, or we know
Hmm.
that this team is, maybe close to retirement, not sure what the succession plan is. So, we basically give them a pretty specific, if you did, let's say 8 million this year, we want you to increase that by 10% next year. So you
Hmm.
figure out where that 10% is going to go, where you think it best fits.
Yeah.
And then we also have, some new business requirements because we've got a pretty intense new business, I guess, document we keep track of. That's a living document that we're
Hmm.
constantly looking for, just a lot of those accounts that each TM has that they're proactively working on. So some of that all builds into one forecast by TM, and then they
Hmm.
turn those in and those get entered into our database. And then we have the prospect list gets filled out as well. And then for unassigned accounts, those all
Yeah.
roll up to all of our branches. And it's a very similar, that one is more high level in that we'll just hit that with whatever growth we think is right.
Yeah.
And then the branch manager will go in and adjust accordingly on, certain large accounts they know something about. And that has served us really well. I can tell you, so I took over as president in 2013. And since 2013, we missed our sales forecast one time. And so it's really a very thorough process that we go through.
Hmm.
But I think, some people argue that it takes too much time and too
Sure.
much level of
Sure.
detail.
Sure.
But one of the things we get doing it that way is ownership. People really
Yeah.
feel like they've signed up for what they think they can do. And it isn't that we don't give them guidelines. And if they come back and say, there's no way I can grow 10%, I'm going to be down 10%, then those are really healthy conversations. And okay, so
Hmm.
this is where we need to invest. How do we help this branch? There's some really big things happening there. They're not as willing to share that information if they're not having to sign off on something, right? So
Hmm. Hmm.
going through that process, I think we learn a lot more than what we would otherwise learn about the different markets we serve.
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds to me like an interview process, really if they're looking at their customers, that you've given them some a general framework of questions and things they can ask, but and I think actually that's one of the things that many just territory managers in general don't do very well is interview and find out where their accounts are going. Not where they are right now when they are writing check. It's where are you going? And, one that just kind of jumped out at me was succession plans. And this is something that, when I teach, that branch manager class, for Hardy, I throw a scenario out. And part of that scenario is that there's been a succession change and we're not, working as well with the next generation, et cetera. But this is something I see a lot of is that territory managers don't go to that in-depth conversation and ask, well, where are you going? And so then things happen to them. And all of a sudden they can't figure out, well, why did this happen to me?
Yeah. Right.
Well, you didn't ask any questions. And so,
Right.
no,
Right.
it's very interesting. I think that, sales budgeting or sales forecasting has been just a really difficult exercise for many people. They just don't really understand how to go about it or, the purpose thereof. But boy, I can see where you're at, but you're right. It's time consuming.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
definitely a
Yeah.
lot to that process.
There's
So
a lot. And we give them worksheets. So they're going to get a spreadsheet. They already have them.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they'll get 2 years, 12 months worth of data for each
Mm-hmm.
account. They get
Mm-hmm.
it by product group, high level,
Mm-hmm.
very high level,
Mm-hmm.
residential, commercial, parts and supplies. And it is, so they can see the trend. They can see if
Mm-hmm.
there's something
Mm-hmm.
going on and they get
Yeah.
this information all year too. So they notice things like that. But yeah, it's a pretty thorough process. It's served us well.
Mm-hmm.
And we continue to do it. It's a team. It takes a village and it takes our
Sure.
entire village to build it. And then we roll it all up and then we spread it out and then there's a little bit of finessing to get it where we need it to be. But that is well worth the time and effort that we put into it for sure.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think, yeah, was it failing to plan is planning to fail? And
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
absolutely. One of the things that, if I think about that, you talked about the assigned accounts that, your TMs would go in and then the unassigned, the branch managers would really pick up the slack there. But where did dormant accounts kind of fit in this process? And I have my own definition of, zero sales in 12 months. Apparently that's just the easiest definition I can come up with, but somebody who has an open account and they just haven't placed an order and maybe it's 12 months, maybe it's 9 months or something, however the definition is. But is that a part of your forecasting process?
So we have two different pieces to that. So we have one that is attrition. If we start noticing a trend going down,
Yeah.
and we try to catch the dormant accounts while they're attrition, not, when they're just completely gone.
Right.
So we look at attrition monthly,
Okay.
and then we also look at the dormant accounts and we try to assign those. So we have a couple inside sales positions.
Yeah.
And we will assign those dormant accounts. They used to buy from us. They're not buying from us anymore.
Yeah.
So for us, it's three things, right? It's new business, which is someone that's not buying from us at all. We've got dormant accounts where they used to buy from us, but they're not anymore. And then we've got our attrition where we're starting to see things go the wrong way with an account. And so we're focusing on all three of those monthly. We have automated reports monthly that are identifying those for us.
No, that's fantastic. I've just been, for some foolish reason, I am researching this right now because it has come up as a hot button for me, the dormant account resurrection or finding a way to reconnect with those. And I think that is really, and frankly, sometimes it's just neglect, it's just nobody's talked to them in a while or nobody has sent anything their way. I mean, I think that is something that's kind of jumped out, for me at least, as I've been doing the research around this. And it's a high percentage. I mean, literally a lot of the business owners I've asked and credit managers, literally they're telling me that, it could be upwards of 50 to 60% of the open accounts on the books that are in this kind of dormant or less than active state. Doesn't sound like that's the case for you all, but because you're jumping on it quicker. But
well, I think we're jumping on it quicker. We can't always keep it from happening. And I think those are good prospects too, right? So if I'm a TM and I've got to add new business, I want to see those because those are my prospects. They know us. It's easier to sell to people that know us.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. It's so funny. I was having breakfast with a college roommate of mine, and he's in the investment banking, financial services industry. He said he made a career on dormant accounts, dormant clients at the bank he was with. I mean, he said it was easy pickings. It was easy. Nobody else wanted to touch them, so said, "Sure, I'll take a shot at them," and made a heck of a career out of that too. So I wanted to jump a little bit forward here and talk about your involvement. When you and I met face to face, it was last summer in Boston at the Emerging Leaders Conference for Hardy. And you are a mentor, and you've been a mentor, I believe, for several years and involved in that program. So I guess my question is, first of all, why did you raise your hand and say, yes, I want to mentor emerging leaders in the industry? What was the reason?
Well, so I guess by and large, it is the industry has given me so much, so much. I've learned from so many great people that are in this industry that know so much more than I do, more than I ever will. I guess I look at it as it's my duty and it's my honor to give back and to sort of pay it forward, if you will. Yeah. We have, our affiliation, my affiliation with Blue Hawk, with Hardy, with Nate. I've just met so many great people in this industry. And they've always been willing to help me and bring me along the way. And I've learned from so many
Yeah.
people that I feel like we all owe that to the industry, make the industry a better place, invest in our future.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so many young people that want to get into our industry, and we need to embrace that and we need to help them. And I think there's so much that we've all gone through that just sharing that history. We talk a lot here about just the different generations in
Yeah.
our industry. And if we can master getting all these generations to work together, I just think we can be so much better. Young people do things differently. They're more technology enabled.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit less, they don't have the history that we have. But if we
Right.
can merge the history and the experience with some of the younger minds and their way of thinking, I think the options are endless for our industry, and I want to participate in that.
Sure. No, and I think that's fantastic. It's the same reason I do this. I do this as well. I know that sometimes those of us of a certain vintage like to, talk poorly of the younger generations and maybe question the way that they think. But I think in all fairness, as I also work with a lot of younger generations, and I am incredibly optimistic about them. I like their enthusiasm. I mean, they can't all be cynics like me. There needs to be some, youthful exuberance and, people who actually want to do things differently and actually want to bring others along. I think that's one of the characteristics I love about, some of the generations I've worked with is that there is this spirit of collaboration and they want to learn and they want to be a part of.
Yeah, honestly, there's so many facets in this industry. And the more personalities and more different generations we can have involved, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's better for all of us.
Absolutely. So also beyond the mentoring that you have done, and really I think it kind of goes back to the original individual who kind of pulled you into the organization and said, I'm not going to let you go. But you also have served on the boards, not only of Hardy, but I believe, you may have on Blue Hawk and some other affiliations. But, well, if you wouldn't mind, tell me a little bit about your service in Hardy.
Sure. So I was on the Hardy board for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Really great experience. I've said to many people, I don't know how we would have gotten through COVID without Hardy helping us through that. And we were doing daily calls and just trying to, things were happening in our industry that we hadn't experienced before. So that was really impactful to distribution, to manufacturers, and to contractors. Very helpful. So when I first became involved with Hardy, I've been attending Hardy meetings forever.
Mm-hmm.
So at RSC, we're a carrier distributor and really know a lot of the carrier distributors well, had a lot of interaction, go to all the carrier meetings. And so that was something that we had lots of resources. I remember the first Hardy meeting I went to and it was just a much more open group of people. It wasn't all carrier, lots of different manufacturers, met lots of people I hadn't met before. And it was a different perspective. And so I thought, wow, this is really great. I can attend all the carrier meetings and get to know everything I need to know about carrier. And then I can attend Hardy.
Right.
And it's more just general industry information. And really started attending those conferences, as many as I could, got to know many, many people. And then, of course, through their committees and different things like that. When I was asked to serve on the board, there were a couple things going through my mind. One was I didn't really think I had a lot I could contribute to the board. It was a little bit intimidating initially. And then secondly, I wasn't sure I had time to serve on the board. I was the president of RSC at the time. And then I was asked to be on the Blue Hawk board, and Lance did it in a way that I couldn't say no. And I don't know if you know Lance.
I do. Yeah. I've met Lance. Yes. Yeah.
So I had such a great experience on that board that when Hardy asked the next time, I said yes. In fact, I was on the Hardy board and the Blue Hawk board at the same time. So that was a little bit of an issue with a couple of meetings, but we worked through it.
Sure.
So it was, again, just, their 3-year terms. And there was a constant, people rolling off and other people rolling on. So I was always getting to know different leaders in the industry that I hadn't met before. And I'll tell you that our industry is so large. You can say you know hundreds and hundreds of people, and you can still go to something and meet 20 more people you didn't know
Oh,
before.
absolutely. Oh, you bet. Yeah.
So, serving on the board and just seeing that side of Hardy and understanding some of particularly with some of the larger issues that we were facing, a lot of it was regulatory. And then, following regulatory, we had COVID happen while I was on the board. And, then just getting back to normal has been the last couple of years. So it's been great. It's been really great. I think I've built some lifelong friendships that I cherish from some of those board seats that I held and just from the industry in general. So I'm a firm believer that, especially if it pushes you a little bit out of your comfort zone, like at first I was a little uncomfortable, and then I really, really enjoyed it. When I was asked to be the president of Hardy, or now it's called the chair of Hardy, I was the first one to do a 2-year term. And that, was a lot of work. And again, I think, it made me stronger. It made me better at what I'm doing. And it really forced me to push myself to be better for the industry. And so I'm glad that I did it. And I will say, I'm glad I'm not the chair anymore. I do miss being on the board, right? The board meetings were interesting and fun. And I'm leaving on Saturday to attend my first Hardy meeting in 8 years that I don't have to do anything but be an attendee. I get to go. I get to go to all the sessions. And so I am looking forward to that. But it was time very well spent.
Well, good. I mean, that's an interesting feeling. Trust me, I went through that this summer going to a conference, and I didn't have any responsibilities whatsoever. Very interesting feeling. So
yes,
it can be very enjoyable too. I can sit and chat with people as long as I wanted to. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, and honestly, serving on these boards has been great for refrigeration sales. We got some exposure we wouldn't have otherwise had. And we've got quite a few individuals that have come up through the mentoring program, the Emerging Leaders program.
Yeah.
And more people entering into that. So Hardy does a great job. So I think just preparing ourselves for the future and developing that next level of management is what we all should be doing for our businesses and for our industry.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't have said it better. And this is why I stay very active in those young emerging leaders organizations. I absolutely agree with you, and I will talk up the distribution industry every chance I get. And frankly, it's a very big part of why I do this. Why I do this show is I really want people exposed. I wanted to see them take a look at a really great opportunity that you and I have, had the privilege of going through. So
sure.
Yeah. Well, Rhonda, this has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you a little bit better and hearing your story. I really appreciate you coming on and spending a little time with me today.
Great. Thanks so much, Jason. It was fun.
Absolutely. And I look forward to the next time our paths cross.
Great. Thank you. Take care.
You bet. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, the Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.